It is a new era for the New Mexico Lobos because Bronco Mendenhall is taking over this program. And under their previous head coach, well, there were things here and there that led to some pretty good things. And hey, maybe they were starting to make a little bit of a climb up the Mountain West Conference. Never really panned out that way. But we know how Bronco Mendenhall has built programs. He had Virginia playing for an ACC title and many, many more accomplishments throughout his career. He's getting back into the head coaching game. So will it be a big boom for the Lobos here in 2024? Or is it going to take a little bit of time for Mendenhall to find his groove here in Albuquerque? You're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. I want to welcome you to my channel, welcome you to prediction season. Just 5 videos left, 3 today, 3 tomorrow. Thank you so much for all your support of prediction season throughout this entire summer, and thank you so much for watching this video. It really does help support my channel in more ways than you can even imagine. Please continue to help support the channel, especially now as we are getting closer and closer to the start of the college football season, because if you're as big of a college football nerd as I am, guys, you're going to want to hear what I have to say during the season. That means subscribing and ringing the bell going to be the biggest and bestest way for you to hear what I have to say. It lets you not miss an upload, customize it whatever you want. Continue to like, comment, share. Just do anything you can to help interact with the channel. All helps to support it, whatever you're willing and able to do. I'll greatly appreciate. Now let's dive in. Talk about the Lobos and Bronco Mendenhall's new squad here in 2024. Hey, how do we do predictions around here? Where we're going to take a deep dive into the offense, into the defense, and then at the end of the video, we'll go through the Lobo football schedule and give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. A couple more things before we do start, because right over here will be the stats the team put up, either offensively or defensively last season. And of course, for your viewing pleasure, right down there below the team's logo, I've went ahead and put the team's coaching staff for you. Hey, let's waste no more time. Let's start talking about the New Mexico Lobos. Lots of production leaving this offense here, so we're going to dive right on in. It was a pretty solid offense last season. As you can see, rush game, really darn good. Pass game had some inconsistencies, but overall was pretty darn solid. You are going to be losing, though, one of your better players on offense from last season, and your primary starting quarterback in Dylan Hopkins. No more eligibility for him. He has graduated. 2,074 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Yeah, okay, his passing numbers weren't great. His rushing numbers, they weren't fantastic either, but 124 yards, did break the plane of the end zone one time, did provide some pretty important value there. You also do lose a guy that only threw 5 passes last year while completing only 1 of them, but since he has gone and off through the portal, it is DC Tapscott. You're going to be looking a little thin on returners in the quarterback room, but nonetheless, these 2 guys are going to be in contention for it. You do get Justin Holiday back, didn't throw a pass last year, but could still be in contention for that starting job. Ryan Cook has entered in through the portal. Maybe he enters the fray, but I think there's no doubt in my mind, I know who the starting quarterback of the New Mexico Lobos is going to be this season, and I think it's going to end up being this guy right here, Devin Dampier, and hopefully I'm saying that name right, but he completed 40 of his 64 attempted passes last season for 525 yards, 6 touchdowns, and no interceptions. That's a really darn good stat line, and while it might not, make your eyes jump out of your head or anything crazy, I mean, given the limited amount of playing time he had last season, that's a pretty darn good stat line, and I think Dampier is going to provide some solid quarterback play with this team. I think he's ready to roll, and Bronco Mendenhall is going to have him ready to go. Running back room, though, you do take some really big hits here. Your leading rusher last year is gone and off through the transfer portal. That is Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, 1,190 yards on only 189 carries. Why is that significant? Well, it means the average 6.3 yards per carry and 17 rushing touchdowns for Krosky Merritt last year. Huge amounts of production are going to be leaving that room. And you also do lose 2 more guys due to graduation. Sherrod White, 3rd leading rusher out of the running back room, 155 yards in the touchdown. He is gone, and Dorian Lewis is gone and off through the portal as well. Now, might I mention that when we dive into returners here, before we start talking about any true running back coming in, Dampier last year, 328 yards, 4 touchdowns on 59 carries, 5.6 yards per carry, broke the plane of the end zone 4 times. He's going to provide you some solid quarterback play as well as some really good things with his legs on the ground. But when you talk about returners here for this team, well, Andrew Henry does come back, 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he actually led the team in yards per carry last year, 6.7 of them. Yeah, could still be a pretty dangerous rushing attack, even though, yes, okay, what do they have for depth? Well, you get Eli Sanders and Javen Jacobs, both of them coming in through the portal. They're going to play some pretty big minutes in this running back room. Mark my words, Sanders and Jacobs, those are 2 guys. I will actually tell you where they're coming from here in just a second here. Sanders is coming over from Iowa State, and Jacobs is coming over from Arizona State. So a couple Power 4 transfers there. They've been around Power 4 programs, and especially that of Eli Sanders, going to have some really big carries for this team. Who knows if Henry or Sanders is good? It's going to be like a 1A, 1B situation. Maybe one guy ends up taking over, but both of those guys, I think, are going to get the bulk of the carries with Jacobs kind of acting as a third back. When you take a look at the wide receiver room this upcoming season, well, you do also lose some pretty important pieces off of last year's side that are either gone due to graduation or gone to the portal. We'll start with the guys that are gone here due to graduation. Second leading receiver, Jeremiah Hickson, is gone. 482 yards and led the team in receiving touchdowns with 5 of them last year on a team-high 39 catches. So led in a couple major categories. He's going to be gone, as well as Andrew Erickson, who has also gone off due to graduation, fourth leading receiver from last season. Desno Washington, third leading receiver. Hey, he's gone and off through the portal. 336 yards and 3 touchdowns for him last year. A couple more guys gone and off through the portal as well when Deuce Jones and Caden Pope both leave this room. So your second, third, fourth, fifth leading receiver. No, sorry, second, third, fourth, sixth, and then Pope somewhere down there on that list as well. So all those guys are going to be leaving, meaning your first, or I should say your leading receiver, and your fifth leading receiver off of last year's team are coming back. They're the first 2 names listed in the wide receiver room. Caleb Medford, 30 catches, 551 yards, 2 touchdowns last season. The favorite to be the leading receiver again for the Wolfpack here. Or no, not for the Wolfpack. Oh my goodness, my apologies. For the Lobos, not the Wolfpack. I mean, technically, if you translate it, then yes. But for the Lobos here in 2024. Ryan Davis also does come back, as well as Luke Wysong and Nick Trujillo. All those guys should play some pretty big minutes when Sean Miller and Isaiah Jones are going to provide some depth. They come in through the transfer portal, and you could even see those two getting some pretty significant minutes at times this season as well. Tight end room, you do lose Wyatt McFlower, more of a depth piece, only 2 catches out of the tight end room last year. Nonetheless, a fairly notable loss to me. He did have a receiving touchdown last year, so provided some scoring value, gone and off through the portal. So here's what you return in the tight end room. Trace Bruckler is coming back, as well as Everett Hunter and Magnus Gears, all those guys back in the tight end room. And in the offensive line room, well, you do lose a ton of talent here. Torian Stafford is gone and off due to graduation, and 6 guys that I could find that had notable playing time, were on the 2 deep last year, whatever have you, are gone and off through the portal. J.C. Davis, DJ Wingfield, C.J. James, Shanko Matautia, hopefully I'm saying that name right, Reese Steele, and Devin Smith, all of them gone and off through the portal. So here's what you have in the offensive line room. You do have a couple returners, but they're more expected to be depth guys this season in Jamarquez Bailey and Isaiah Suleiman. Hopefully I'm saying that name right. Guys, your starting 5 on the offensive line, at least your projected starting 5, is all coming in through the transfer portal, and it's these 5 guys right here. Jawan Singletary, Richard Purse, Mackenzie Agnello, Baraka Beckett, and Wallace Unamba. All of those guys coming in through the portal, and they're all, according to ourlads.com, that's your projected starting 5 on the offensive line. The offensive line, hey, allowed the rushing attack to get 5.3 yards per carry last year and only allowed 19 sacks. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this rebuilt offensive line looks this season. Does it get a little bit better? Does it stay the same? Does it get worse? It's kind of really hard to tell, especially when you have an offensive line that is purely built through the transfer portal, but you do bring in some very experienced guys there. Again, I think Dampier is going to give you solid quarterback play. You got some good skill position guys. And overall, I mean, this is the New Mexico Lobo offense that if everything clicks this season, especially that offensive line, things can be really dangerous, and opposing defenses could have their hands full when they play Bronco Mendenhall's Lobo offense. Let's take a deep dive here now into the defensive side of the ball, and this is what you're going to have to fix for the most part here. Now, look, the third down conversion percentage really was pretty good last season. 408 yards per game last year. Not a terrible number by any stretch, but you got to keep teams out of the end zone. 35 points per game last season. Just allowing way too many points per game last year was this Lobo defense. That's why they lost more games than they won. But again, a lot can change this season. After a quick water break, I'll tell you who is gone and who's coming back on the defensive side. Please make sure you stay hydrated out there. Drink plenty of water. Now we'll dive on into talking about the defense here. Defensive line, let's start with that. Hunter Rapola, Rapoya, however you pronounce that last name. Well, he is going to be gone and off. They're off of the defensive line. Now, last season for him, 20 tackles, sack and a half. Did see some pretty high impact minutes and could impact the game quite a bit. Again, gone and off through the portal. Some solid production there is going to be gone when he leaves this defensive side. You take a look at who's coming back on the defensive line. Well, these are really the only notable returners that I think are going to get some significant playing time. Yes, they have a lot more returners than this, but a ton of guys come in through the portal that are going to provide just some really high, significant impact minutes. So Gabriel Lopez, Kyler Drake, and Tyler Kenny. Hopefully, I'm saying that last name correctly. I probably butchered it, and you can flame me for it in the comment section below. I'll take it. Hey, all of those guys are going to be coming back here to the defensive front. Tell you what some of those guys did last year. Lopez and Drake, 26 tackles for Lopez, 25 tackles for Drake, 2 sacks for Lopez, 3.5 sacks for Drake. If I'm not mistaken, yes, the 3.5 sacks there for Kyler Drake led the defense last season. But again, a lot of talent coming in here through the transfer portal. In terms of who I think is going to get the most playing time, I think that's going to be Devin Brant Epps, a guy that is coming in here. I'll tell you where he's coming from in just a second. I got to find it. He is coming over. Over there from Old Dominion, where he was a pretty significant high impact player there for the Monarchs. Could be again here for the Lobos in 2024. I think he probably is going to get the most playing time, but you also do get Dejon Benton, who's a USC transfer, and a couple of other guys that I think are going to have some really high impact minutes. Antonio Harris Jr., and I will butcher this name. I'm telling you that right now, but I'm going to try my best. Okiki Olorunfunmi is going to be coming in here to the defensive line room as well. Linebacker room, let's talk about it because you do lose some really big names, really high impact players out of the defensive, or I should say out of the linebacking room from last season. Leading tackler, Alec Marenko is going to be gone. 66 tackles, half a sack, 3 passes defended. You lose him. You also do lose Tate Zimmerman off of this team. 12 tackles and a sack for him last season. Both of those guys are gone and off through the portal, but another top 5 tackler leaves when Syer Riley is going to be gone and off due to graduation. 48 tackles and a sack for the linebacker last season. So when you talk about the linebacker room coming back, well, you do still have some really nice returning pieces here. Dimitri Johnson is going to be coming back, 48 tackles, half a sack, 4 passes defended from last season. So pretty significant linebacker there. Jaden Wilson, and again, I will butcher this name, Mahalis Santorinios. Again, that was my best attempt. You can flame me for it in the comment section below. It's fine, but those are all going to be returners in this linebacker room coming back. And Moso Tuitele is going to be a guy that is coming in here through the transfer portal. That's going to kind of try to cushion the blow of losing some of these linebackers from last season. Defensive back room, 3 guys I got to tell you about here that are notable losses to me. Zach Morris has gone and off through the transfer portal out of the cornerback room. And this is a very high impact loss because he led the team in passes defended last year. 8 passes defended, 1 interception to go along with 36 tackles. Yeah, that's a pretty important loss. And you also are going to be losing Dante Martin, who is going to be gone and off there due to graduation. 27 tackles and tied for second on the team last season. Or no, I think he just had second by himself. Yes, he did. He just had second by himself. There was 7 passes defended. Again, Dante Martin gone out of the cornerback room. And you also do lose Jermarius Lewis out of the safety room. He's also gone and off through the portal. 45 tackles. Did have a sack there as well. 4 passes defended and 3 interceptions, which led the Lobo defense last year. A guy that, or I should say a team, that only picked the ball off 4 times last year. So you lose all of your interception production from last year. Morris had 1, Lewis had 3. That's all 4 gone and off through the transfer portal. So again, some pretty high significant impact losses. I know I just used like 3 or 4 different adjectives right there, but they're all big losses coming out of that defensive back room. Okay, so who do you have coming back? Cornerback room, let's talk about it. Really only one notable returner that I could find that's going to be like a true corner. I do believe that New Mexico kind of has a nickelback position here. Okay, no, they kind of call them the Lobo positions, the Wolf positions, kind of those safeties. All those guys are listed in the safety room. So Bryson Taylor, a guy returning to this cornerback room that I think could have some pretty high impact minutes here. Obviously had some pretty high impact minutes last season. Should again here in 2024. And then a ton of transfers. Noah Avenger, Nigel Williams, Bobby Arnold, and Pierre Kameni Jr. all come in through the transfer portal. And in the safety room, it's a ton of returners. Christian Ellis, Derek Moore, Tavian Combs, Noah Pola Gates, and Aaron Smith, all notable returners here to this team. Christian Ellis, second leading tackler last year. And then, again, just a ton of other really, really talented players that'll be coming back to the secondary. And, hey, kickers are people, too. We got to talk about them. No notable loss out of the special teams room. So you get Aaron Rodriguez back to do the punting duties. And I'm going to check on the pronunciation on this one. Okay, here we go. Best attempt. Luke Drewitsky will be back to be the primary place kicker for the Lobos here in 2024. Running out of time here, sort of rambled on a bit. So I got to tell you about this defense really quickly. Got some really nice returning pieces, but again, a lot of guys that had high impact minutes are going to be gone. And how do all the transfer portal pieces fit? That's going to be the big thing, especially in that defensive line room and in this cornerback room. But you can't deny the talent that you're bringing in. We'll see how the Lobo defense improves here in 2024. But now I got to tell you about the Lobo football schedule. If my slide would change, hey, there it goes. Any game at home is going to be underlined. Well, any game on the road is in italics. Guys, that's that slanted text. Any game in green is going to be a game that I think the Lobos are going to win fairly easily. Any game in yellow, a close competitive game, but one I still see the Lobos being able to win. Any game in red is a loss. And look, if you're going to look for an FCS to FBS upset, which I don't predict often here on this channel, I don't think there's one any more clear cut than this one right here in week 0. Montana State was one of the best FCS teams last season, and they're going to be one of the best FCS teams, if not the best FCS team. You definitely can make that argument this season here in 2024. Playing a Lobo team that has a lot of new pieces coming in, a lot of guys that are trying to fill in some position gaps, especially in week 1. I think this is where an FCS to FBS upset has to happen. I think Montana State is going to beat New Mexico. And look, that's no slight to the talent that is on this Lobo team, but Montana State is also a very, very talented side. They're going to be in contention for an FCS national title this year, and I think there is no FCS to FBS upset that is more likely to happen than this one right here. I think the Bobcats beat the Lobos in week 0. Again, one of the few teams to play in week 0 this year are the New Mexico Lobos, and I think that is how they open up the 2024 season. And then you just got to play 3 teams in quick succession that are really, really good. 2 of them are Power 4 teams. You got to go on the road to play them. Arizona, this is the week 1 game. Arizona returns Noah Fafita, returns Tataro McMillan. You bring in Brent Brennan to be that head coach, a guy that personally I love. And I just think Arizona going to be a really good football team this season. And Auburn, even after the bye week here for the New Mexico Lobos, Auburn is going to be able to beat New Mexico this season as well. Hugh Freeze's team should take some steps in the right direction at the very least this season, if not be a surprise contender out of the SEC. So we'll see what happens with the Tigers this year, but they are way more talented than the Lobos, and the Lobos start out 0-3. They also start out 0-4 this college football season because, look, even though Jeff Tedford has stepped down due to health concerns and health reasonings, Fresno State, just based off of sheer talent, is one of the most talented teams in the Mountain West Conference, and they're still going to win a lot of games with or without Jeff Tedford this season. Mikey Keene is back, some really good pieces in the wide receiver running back room are back. They're probably going to have one of the best defenses in the Mountain West Conference this year, and I think that is going to be a loss for the New Mexico Lobos. So you start out 0-4 here, a game that, look, you already get off to a rough start when you lose to the FCS team, and again, no shame in that. Montana State is very, very good, but then you get a road game against your rival in New Mexico State. Both of these teams are going to be rebuilding this year. New Mexico State, while they've got some solid talent, loses pretty much every major contributor from last season, and I think New Mexico, with this rivalry game here, New Mexico versus New Mexico State, even though it is a road game, I think the Lobos are going to pull off this upset here. Nothing else is telling me, just based on the fact that I sort of got this feeling that I think New Mexico is going to be able to pull off this win. Again, when they put all the pieces together, this is going to be the first team that they've played, maybe besides Montana State, but again, I've already said Montana State's very talented, where you really feel like you got a really, really good shot to go ahead and win. New Mexico State has got some good talent, but again, when trying to replace everybody from last year, I think New Mexico, when they put everything together, are going to be able to win some football games this year. Now, it might not be many, and it might only be one, maybe a little bit of a spoiler alert there, but I do think they pick up that road win in the rivalry game, an upset, if you could even call it that, on the road against the Aggies. The Lobos will come out victorious, and that's how they win their first game of the college football season. You do after your second bye week, because again, you get 3 here because you played in week 0. Most other teams get 2 this year. You get a game against the Air Force Falcons, and a game that I just see you lose in there as well. Air Force, again, you want to talk about a team that lost everyone like New Mexico State. Air Force only returns 5 starters from last year. Larrier, their quarterback, is gone. John Lee Eldridge is gone. Some other really talented pieces there, and Brad Roberts, probably your best defensive player off of last year, is gone as well. Yet, Troy Calhoun's one of the best head coaches in the game, folks. Don't sleep on his name. He's a very good head coach. Air Force will be still a really good team, one of the better ones in the Mountain West Conference this season. And Air Force, will be beating the New Mexico Lobos this season. And even though Utah State has got a lot of turmoil right now with everything going on with Blake Anderson, they still got a solid football roster, still got some guys that are going to be leading the charge here. They returned some really important pieces off of last year's team that I'll tell you about here once everything loads. Hey, uh, there you go. You still got some really good wide receiver pieces coming back, like Colby Bowman, Jalen Royals. The quarterback room, though, Spencer Petras, Bryson Barnes, Jacob Conover, CJ Tiller, all of those guys are transfers, all can push for the starting job. Quarterback position going to be interesting for Utah State this year, but I think when they put it all together, especially some of the defensive pieces they have transferring in, they're going to be a solid football team this year. So that's a win for the Aggies of Utah State, meaning a loss for the Lobos. And again, doesn't get much better from here. Colorado State returns a ton of talent. Braden Fowler Nicolosi is coming back there to that team. He still has chemistry with Torrey Horton, who might be the best wide receiver in the Mountain West. That's going to be a win there for the Colorado State Rams. And I also don't think the Lobo offense is going to be able to overcome the Wyoming defense that returns pretty much every major contributor off of last year's team. And yes, Craig Bowl, you will be missed. Good luck in retirement and whatever else he may do. Wyoming's still going to be a solid football team this year. That's a loss for the Lobos. I also think San Diego State is a loss. Now, maybe could potentially be a win here at home, but even if you do get this game at home, I like Sean Lewis's new squad a lot here. Sean Lewis, of course, coming over to be that head coach, former Kent State head coach that was able to build the Golden Flashes program up, and last year was the offensive coordinator for Coach Prime at Colorado. He's bringing in a ton of really talented transfers, and I think the Aztecs are going to be much better than their disappointing final season under Brady Hoke, like last season. Washington State, even though they got damaged through the portal, Cam Ward, some other really talented wide receiver pieces, some defensive pieces, still got some really good talent. I think Washington State will be able to beat New Mexico, and I don't think this New Mexico secondary is going to be able to handle the passing onslaught that Braden Shager and this Hawaii Rainbow Warrior team is going to be able to throw at you here. So that's a loss for the Lobos there as well. So you take a look at the schedule, you see 11 games in red. That means only one win. 1-11 is where I got New Mexico this season. Now, I do want to preface by saying this. Do I think Bronco Mendenhall was the right hire for this team? Yes, absolutely. We have seen how he's built programs or I should say just previously in his career, did it with Virginia, did it with some of his other stops where he's been as well. And I think, again, New Mexico's got a lot of solid talent here. I just think building that foundation this season is the most important thing, and maybe they get more than one win. Maybe I'm undervaluing Bronco Mendenhall and people can do in year one. But I think year two, really where they start to see some growth, and then year three, New Mexico can maybe look to push for a spot in the top half of the Mountain West Conference. It's going to be a process with this Lobo program. I think Bronco Mendenhall was the right guy for the job, but overall, maybe just a little bit slow in year one here for the Lobo program. 1-11, maybe they win more, but I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. And then the next video, we'll talk about our final team of the American Athletic. It's the Charlotte 49ers. Goodbye.